Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today's video topic was actually suggested by my friend Noir, and her idea was really cool. So if you're watching this, Noir, I hope you enjoy this. And I'll also be making a male variant of this topic since I don't really see many of these kinds of videos for men compared to women. So that will be a video I will be releasing in the future. Now, I can't cover every single beauty standard that's ever to have existed in this video, as that will probably be longer than the Little Mermaid live-action movie. So I will be focusing on some countries and certain time periods that I have selected for this. And to start off, we're going back to my first love of ancient Egypt. Now, if we look at paintings and statues of women from ancient Egypt, the imagery has not changed very much. Their skin is sometimes depicted as lighter than their male counterparts, with the man's skin being closer in color to copper and the women having a more yellow tone. This was most likely due to the fact that women didn't do as much heavy outdoor labor as the men did, so they wouldn't spend as much time outside in the sun. The women in these images are also portrayed as tall and slender and not that old. I have not seen many depictions of older women in Egyptian art. They also wear long-haired wigs, which was typical of fashion at this time, although there have been instances I've seen where women have short wigs, such as on some statues of women being portrayed making beer. As for the dress, it was typically a linen dress that was ankle length with straps over the bosom, but as time went on, dresses became more complex. Now, more well-off women who were able to afford it had these marvelous necklaces, beautiful bracelets, and earrings. And both men and women wore makeup, including kohl, which was an eyeliner that protected the eyes from the sun, so kind of like history's first sunglasses. There is also no appearance of body hair anywhere on artwork depicting men and women. After the death of Cleopatra VII, the famous Cleopatra portrayed by Elizabeth Taylor in the 1960s, Egypt then became part of the Roman Empire, and it is at this point we see the Egyptian culture merge with the Roman culture, and we see evidence of this in funerary portraits, in statues where Roman emperors are depicted with typical Egyptian pharaoh regalia, and even in religion, where some Egyptian gods and goddesses, such as Isis, are portrayed in a Roman style, which looks completely different to their classic Egyptian counterpart. Looking over again how Egyptian women are portrayed in their artwork with youthful, slender figures, we see that it looks very similar to the youthful and slender imagery of the Egyptian goddesses. So it's almost as if the Egyptian women want to look as divine as these women that they worship. Moving forward a few centuries to the Edo period of Japan, which took place between 1603 and 1878, the beauty standards for Japanese women were very different to that of their ancient Egyptian counterparts. For women, the height of beauty in this period was a long, thin face with pale skin, small lips, and blackened teeth. I didn't know this, but apparently black teeth can actually help prevent tooth decay, so I thought that was very interesting. In terms of fashion, women dressed depending on their social class due to the laws created by the Tokugawa shogunate. A wealthy woman was dressed in the finest silk and vibrant colors, whereas lower-class women wore clothing made out of more modest materials, such as cotton and darker shades. In terms of hairstyle, women wore their hair differently depending on their marital status and place in society. This hairstyle was called a shimada and had multiple styles. The hairstyle included wide parts by the ears and the hair pulled up into a bun at the back or top of the woman's head. Combs and other accessories could be included, and similar hairstyles are seen on geishas. Makeup looks were also simple, and they consisted of women painting their faces with powder and coloring their lips with red lipstick. Women of the Edo period are portrayed as beautiful, youthful, and elegant, and similar to the ancient Egyptians. This style does not heavily change over time. Moving forward a tad after the Edo period started and moving across the globe, now we're looking at 18th century France, where their court life was focused so much on beauty. The beauty standard for women at this time had rosy cheeks and a plump face, perfectly manicured eyebrows, small lips painted red, and fair, youthful skin. Makeup was also used to hide any flaws that the person had, such as acne or scars. There's portraits by Francois Boucher, and I'm sorry if I butcher that pronunciation, whose artwork shows some of these beauty ideals. Now, the fashion of this time period is one of my personal favorites because of the detail in the dresses alone, and it's really captured in portraits of that era. So dresses evolved over the century, and many of the examples of fashion that people think of from this time are the robe à la française that had these bold colors and detailed patterns. Women also wore multiple layers of underclothing and a corset each day, and keep in mind some women changed their clothes several times a day, so I imagine that it could get quite tedious. However, as the century continued, women began to dress in simple silhouettes and styles, and the bigger is better idea with fashion slowly died down. As for hairstyles, the 18th century is normally associated with these really elaborate wigs, but women didn't actually wear these wigs. They were normally worn by men. So instead, wealthy women would hire hairdressers to come and style their hair, but men and women would both powder their hair. By the time the 1750s happened, women opted for shorter hairstyles with curls, and when the 1770s came along, so did large hair. And these hairstyles could get very large, sometimes being about 1.5 times larger than the head of the woman was. Marie Antoinette, for example, had a giant boat in her hair to celebrate a French naval victory, and she also never said let them eat cake, but that's a video for another day. Then, in the 1780s, women leaned more towards a natural and smaller hairstyle, and as for lower class women, their outfits were made out of a more practical material, and their clothing and hairstyles reflected the labor-intensive jobs some of the women had to do, such as working the fields or tending to animals. To be honest, the fashion of this time period looks very storybook. It looks like something you expect to see in, well, a fairy tale, because it just has that look to it. I'm not quite sure how to describe it, but it has the look of a fairy tale. Passing the 18th century and moving more towards the modern age, beauty standards in the last 100 years have changed rapidly. For example, in the early 1900s, when women began removing unwanted hair from their legs, to the flapper looks of the 20s, to the more curvy and seductive looks of Marilyn Monroe during the 1950s, and then Kate Moss during the 90s, and so on. But with modern beauty standards, I've noticed they seem to stem a lot from both health and personal preference, and they also vary by country, but that's always kind of been the case for beauty standards. For example, my ideal man looks like this, but somebody else's idea of the perfect man looks like this. Now in this video, even though I did cover a few different periods in history, each one of them deserve their own video, so that may be coming in the future, I'll have to see. But just remember, looks fade, but personality stays. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like, leave a comment, and subscribe to Sweet Histortea, a channel full of random facts and lots of sparkles. If you would like to support my channel, please consider becoming a patron or joining my channel membership program. If you would like to leave a one-time donation, please consider sending me a super thanks. If you would like to see more of my personal life, please follow me on Instagram. Thank you again for watching. Until next time.
There's a part of myself I'm missing. Now I got a lot to